Mosasaurus is a genus of mosasaur, extinct carnivorous aquatic lizards. It existed during the Maastrichtian age of the late Cretaceous period, between about 70 and 66 million years ago, in Western Europe and North America. The name means Meuse lizard, as the first specimen was found near the Meuse River. Description: Mosasaurus was among the last of the mosasaurids, and among the largest. As with most mosasaurids, the legs and feet of Mosasaurus were modified into flippers, and the front flippers were larger than the hind flippers. The largest known species, Mosasaurus hoffmanii, reached lengths up to 17 meters, slightly longer than its relatives Tylosaurus and Hinosaurus. Mosasaurus was also more robust than related mosasaurids. The skull was more robust than in other mosasaurids, and the lower jaws attached very tightly to the skull. They had deep, barrel-shaped bodies, and with the fairly large eyes, poor binocular vision, and poorly developed olfactory bulbs. Experts believe that Mosasaurus lived near the ocean surface, where they preyed on fish, turtles, ammonites, smaller mosasaurids, and plesiosaurians. Although they were able to dive, they evidently did not venture into deeper waters. The skull of Mosasaurus tapered off into a short, conical tip. The jaws were armed with massive conical teeth. The paddle-like limbs had 5 digits in front and 4 in back. The body ended in a strong tail, which other mosasaurid fossils suggest had a fluke similar to those of sharks and some ichthyosaurs. The body probably remained stiff to reduce drag through the water, while the end of the tail provided strong propulsion. History of discovery. First discoveries. Mosasaurus was the first genus of mosasaur to be named. The first remains known to science were a fragmentary skull from a chalk quarry in the St. Petersburg, a hill near Maastricht, Netherlands, found in 1764 and collected by Lieutenant Jean-Baptiste Drouin in 1766. It was procured for the Tellus Museum at Haarlem in 1784 by Martinus van Marum, the first director of the museum, who published its description only in 1790. He considered it to be a species of big-breathing fish. It is still part of the collection as trademark 7424. At some time between 1770 and 1774 a second partial skull was discovered and procured. It was found in the ground owned by Canon Theodorus Johann Goding, who displayed it in his country house on the slope of the hill. A local retired German, Dutch army physician, Johann Leonard Hoffmann, also collected some fragments and corresponded about the skull with the Dutch professor Petrus Camper. Hoffmann presumed the animal was a crocodile. In 1786, however, Camper disagreed and concluded the remains were those of an unknown toothed whale. Maastricht, an important fortress city, was captured by the French Revolutionary armies by the end of 1794. Accompanying the French troops, although arriving in Maastricht 2 months after the city had been taken, was geologist Barthélemy Fayus de Saint-Fond on a mission to secure the peace, together with Representant du Peuple Augustin Lucie de Frecini, who during the campaign tried to transport anything of artistic or scientific value he could lay his hands on to France. Finding that it had been removed from the cottage and hidden within the fortress, Frecini supposedly offered 600 bottles of excellent wine to those being the first to locate the skull and bring it to him in one piece. Soon a dozen grenadiers claimed the reward, carrying the piece with them. December 1794 it was moved to Paris as war booty, by decree declared a national heritage and added to the collection of the new Muséum National d'Histoire Naturelle. In 1798 Fayus de Saint-Fond published his Histoire naturelle de la Montagne de Saint-Pierre de Maastricht, which also contained an account of the circumstances of the find. according to him. Hoffmann paid the quarryman to inform him of any fossil finds. When the skull was found in 1770, Hoffmann was notified by the quarryman, and he is said to have led the excavation from then on. Afterwards, Ghedoghedo would have claimed his rights as landowner and forced Hoffmann to relinquish his ownership through a lawsuit, won by influencing the court. St. Fond, after all, in 1795, saved the specimen for science, promising a considerable indemnity to Ghedoghedo to compensate for his loss. However, as Dutch historian Peggy Rompen has illustrated, very little of this famous story can be substantiated by other sources. Ghedoghedo was the original owner. Hoffmann clearly never possessed the fossil. There is no trace of any lawsuit. Fayus de St. Fond probably never paid anything, and the entire account seems to have been fabricated by him to justify the dispossession by military force. Identification as an extinct reptile. De St. Fond still assumed the specimen represented a crocodile. In 1798, the son of Petrus Camper, Adrian Giles Camper, again studied the fossil indirectly by reconsidering the description by his father. He was the first to reach the conclusion that the remains were those of a giant monitor, which result in 1799 he corresponded to Georges Cuvier. In 1808, Cuvier confirmed Camper's result. The fossil had already become part of Cuvier's first speculations on the possibility of animal species going extinct. The idea of extinction paved the way for his theory of catastrophism, or consecutive creations, one of the predecessors of the evolution theory. Prior to this, almost all fossil reptile specimens, when recognized as having come from once living animals, were interpreted as forms similar to those of the modern-day crocodiles, fish, whales, or large land mammals. Cuvier's idea that the Maastricht specimen was a gigantic version of a modern animal unlike any species alive today seemed strange, even to him. He justified this by trusting his techniques in the then developing field of comparative anatomy, which he had already used to identify giant, extinct members of other modern groups known only from fossils, including giant tapir and ground sloth specimens. A scientific name had not yet been given to the new species, the specimen usually being referred to as the grand animal fossil des Carrières de Maastricht, or great fossil animal of the Maastricht quarries. In 1822, William Daniel Conybeare named it Mosasaurus after the Latin name of the Meuse River passing along Mount St. Peter, the second skull being the holotype MNHNPAC 9648. The specific name Hoffmannii was added by Gideon Mantel in 1829, honoring Hoffmann, on the presumption he was the discoverer of the type specimen. The emendated form Hoffmannii, often used today, is contrary to the rules of the ICZN that state the original spelling of a name is to be preserved. In 1854, German biologist Hermann Schlegel was the first to conjecture Mosasaurus had flippers instead of normal feet. On September 19, 2012, it was announced that 9 days earlier, again a skeleton of what appears to be a mosasaur was found in the limestone quarry just outside Maastricht, the same quarry that yielded the type specimen of Mosasaurus hoffmannii. Carlo Brauer, an excavator operator at the ENCI quarry, discovered the teeth of the fossil in the shovel of his digger on Monday morning, September 10. In the days following the discovery, museum staff retrieved several large sections of the skull and part of the body and tail of the approximately 13-meter-long skeleton. Based on stratigraphy, the age of the specimen was estimated at 67.83 million years, making it about 1.5 million years older than Burr. From what has been uncovered, this appears to be the oldest known specimen of Mosasaurus
Mosasaurus hoffmanii, or a closely related species. The specimen is nicknamed Carlo, after the ENCI worker who discovered it. On Saturday, April 18, 2015, a 14-year-old amateur paleontologist, Lars Barton, from Ghedoghedo village in Noord-Brabant province in the Netherlands, together with his father Jos Barton, discovered a Mosasaurus hoffmanii fossil near ENCI Maastricht. The fossil has been named Lars after its finder and now resides in the Natuurhistorische Museum Maastricht. Classification and species. The family Mosasauridae is split into several subfamilies, with Mosasaurus being placed within Mosasaurinae. This subfamily, in turn, is further split into smaller tribes, with Mosasaurus being grouped with Cladacetes, Moanosaurus, and Leodon in the tribe Mosasaurinae. Since the genus was first named in the early 19th century, numerous species have been assigned to Mosasaurus, both from North America and Europe. Many researchers have suggested that certain European species are actually synonyms of their American counterparts, though because many of the specimens involved are incomplete, scientists have gone back and forth regarding which species are synonyms and which are not. For example, the giant American species M. maximus is regarded by most researchers as a junior synonym of the European M. hoffmanii, though a few scientists maintain that the two can be distinguished by features of the skull bones. 5 species are generally recognized as valid today: M. hoffmanii mantle, 1829; M. conodon cope, 1881; M. lemonieri dollo, 1889; M. Bogey arambor, 1952; and M. missouriensis. Misassigned species, junior synonyms, are nomina dubia. M. copianus marsh, 1869 equals Pleoplatecarpus depressus. M. crassidens marsh, 1870. M. decabron, 1838 equals M. hoffmanii. M. flemingi wiffen, 1990. M. gaudridolo, 1889. M. gracilis owen, 1850, now placed in Rastlasaurina. M. hardenponti. M. horridus williston, 1895 equals Mosasaurus missouriensis. M. iguanivus. M. ivansius person, 1963 equals Taniphusaurus ivansius. M. johnsoni equals Amphecapubus johnsoni. M. lonziensis dollo, 1904. M. lundgreni. M. mongahuangi equals Moanosaurus mongahuangi. M. meershi marsh, 1869. M. neovidi von Meyer, 1845. M. scanicus. Cladogram of mosasaurs and related taxa modified from D.